We are just like you, but we are German too. Yes, our public transport is swift and sleek, and we do wear socks and sandals at the beach. And yes, we are the land of Lederhosen, Leverkusen, Baden-Baden, Kindergarten, Vorsprung durch Technik, Abitur, the Ruhr and Brandenburger Tor. Is that really what we are? Sure. But that's not all, by far. We are the Verve. 90-minute dream each week. The head and hands after defeat. The glory of the solo goal. The unfair loss, the broken soul. We are the heart. Our faith untamed by wind or rain. The years of pain without the gain. We are the truth. Whether we win or lose each match, each time we still keep coming back. We are the faith. The penalty clearing the bar. Wishing for luck on distant stars. Hope though the clock says nothing left. The injured time. The sudden death. Sweat, tears, battle. Stress and fierce tackles. We are the flame. Fight, stamina, fashion. Lights, cameras, passion. We are one. Each match day is a festival where long gone are the days of the Berlin Wall. We welcome all. We are the Bundesliga. We are football as it's meant to be.
So, thank you so much for being here and watching. You just saw a spot that last week won the Promax Award in Los Angeles for a global campaign. And I want to talk about DFL for Equity. So you just saw pictures about the Bundesliga. In fact, you saw much more. You saw pictures from one of the most successful companies in Germany in the last years, who grew 6 times faster as the German industry for the last 10 years, year by year. You saw the most international media company in Germany, which is in fact the Bundesliga, because we distribute our content in more than 200 countries. You saw the biggest live event in Germany, which attracts more than 12 million people year by year. You saw one of the most important and fastest growing advertising platforms in the last year. And you saw pictures from the biggest production company, the most experienced production company for live football all over the world. And you saw pictures, by the way, from the biggest digital sports archive in the world. I come to that later on. All that you just saw when you see pictures of the Bundesliga. Probably you didn't know that, but this is all the Bundesliga. And I'm running this company right now for 14 years. And when you're all this, sooner or later, you think, what comes next? And this is why we decided to do DFL for Equity. What is DFL for Equity? DFL for Equity means that we want to build up, or we started to build up, an innovative investment portfolio for sports, technology, and in the service space in a wider range. The DFL has some unique assets, and we think that these assets can play a decisive role in the development of startups. There's a lot of money out in the market, but I think, and you all know that it's not all about money, it's all about assets. And I think we have some of these assets. The DFL will make these assets available to innovative firms in exchange for an equity stake. And we started with that last year. Depending on the company, both we can see this as a long-term commitment or an exit like other investors after several years. And we started with that last year, acquiring a stake in Track 160, which is a company from Israel, which is focused on the optical tracking of players combined with artificial intelligence. And we are also open for co-investments. If it makes sense with VC or private equities, this is also possible. So when I'm talking about unique assets, what do I mean? No matter what sport you're talking about, no matter if it's football or basketball or baseball or handball or volleyball or whatever, you have various steps in the value chain. You organize a competition, of course. Out of a competition, in the moment you start, you create data. You create data about the speed of a player, about the length of a ball, about the speed of a shot or whatever. You create data. And of course, you do your own production, because you have to create somehow a base product, a base signal, like we call it, from that sport event. Out of that base signal, which is mainly the 90-minute games, you create some kind of content. This can be a live game, this can be a highlight show, this can be clips you can watch on various devices. And of course, as the Bundesliga, you're trying to sell this internationally, and nationally and internationally. The Bundesliga today is the 6th biggest sports league in the world, with a turnover of around 3.5 billion. And around 30% of that, 35% of that comes from the media income. What is very special on the Bundesliga is, if you compare it with the other big leagues in Europe, Premier League, La Liga, and Serie A, you see that the Bundesliga is the only one, that the DFL is the only one, who is controlling the whole value chain with companies which we own 100% or with GVs we control. And this is very special. And we think that out of this very specific role and this very specific strategy, we can create a very special leverage for interesting companies. And by the way, what is often overseen, we're the only football league from the top leagues who still has a player in the logo, which is important, because we think the sport is still the core of that, what we are doing, and not a lion. So how is the Bundesliga structured today? The Bundesliga, the DFL, which is the mother company since 2001, is responsible for competition and for managing the competition and selling the marketing rights. This is what the DFL is responsible for. Over the years, we developed a variety of companies which brought us in a very special situation. In 2006, we founded our production company, Sportcast. Sportcast is a company who produces all of the 306 games of the Bundesliga and the second Bundesliga year by year. It was an obligation of the European Commission that we produce every game live. And in 2006, this was the biggest contract for live production in the world of sports worldwide, because no one was asked for to produce 306 games from a second Bundesliga live 90 minutes. That was an obligation. It was a tough obligation, but we turned that into a strength and created our own company. Today, Sportcast produced over 8,000 games live. We produced 1/3 of the whole World Cup, by the way, and we are the most experienced company for live production of football all over the world. Because we produce every game live, we own the rights of every game. So we also host the biggest digital sports archive in the world, more than 140,000 hours of digital content. Edited content is in there. Every moving picture since 1963 you ever saw about the Bundesliga is in that digital archive. When you have the base signal, anyway, when you have the archive, the next logical step was that we created a sales company, because we have to sell it. And we started our own international sales company in 2008, which is right now Bundesliga International, and we are selling the rights in over 200 countries. Even in North Korea, you can see a highlight show about the Bundesliga. But we don't go there and sell it directly. In 2012, we founded our content company, which is the DFL Digital Sports. And there we produce ready-to-play content for our own channels, which is, for instance, Bundesliga.com or Bundesliga.de. Our so-called operated channels, which means that these are the channels we host, for instance, on Instagram, YouTube, or others, or we produce white label content for partners maybe in Latin America, where it's Fox or it's Sky Perfect in Japan or whatever, where we produce some kind of content which can be plugged and play from these channels all around the world, who of course have not the editorial power like German media companies have when they're following the Bundesliga. And then in 2016, we founded another company. It's called the Sporttech Solution. It's a joint venture we run with the well-known data company Delta Trey. We own 75%. And all data that are produced from every game of the Bundesliga and second Bundesliga is scouted and tracked there, and it goes automatically in the digital archive. Because if you want to work with a digital archive, and if you want, for instance, look how many goals ever in his career were scored by Marco Reus, for instance, Borussia Dortmund, you have to know, did he play in that game? Did he score it? And when he scored? Otherwise, you have to watch all his games. And this is why you need data and pictures. It's all in that digital archive. Having all that, as I said, we're the only one who are owning the complete value chain. And that brings us to the position that we have various assets, and I think these assets are obvious. So first of all, if one of the largest sports leagues in the world is working together with you, this is a signal all over the world. The second is, of course, we create a specific order volume. So we spend, as doing our normal job, we spend millions of euros year by year to the sports-related industries. Of course, we created a certain know-how over the years, no matter if you're talking about production, camera technology, creating data, working with data. I think we created a pretty good know-how. Of course, we produce content, obviously, and we can also deliver a very good network. As I said, the Bundesliga today, the 6th largest professional sports league in the world, the 2nd largest football league in the world after the Premier League. Me personally, I'm the chairman of the World Leagues Forum, and I have the honor to chair more than 40 leagues all around the world. And all these assets we can bring in to help startups to grow. And if you see then all these assets along the value chain, you see that we have more or less in every field of business, we can deliver something. As I said, content to 50 leagues. So of course, when we work together with a company like Track 160, we introduce them to the real decision makers, not the so-called decision makers, the real decision makers from leagues all over the world. Of course, when we create data and we have the content, we have the official match database, which is owned by us, and we can also offer to companies we think that they're interesting. And as I said, we are hosting the globally largest football archive, digital football archive, and all of you who know that talking about artificial intelligence, you know that data and that input for such systems is extremely important. And of course, for instance, there, I think we could deliver something. So, as I said, this is the structure we developed. We can help grow businesses and brands worldwide along these value chains, and with all the assets we created there. And this is what I promised you. What I will explain a little bit how the Bundesliga will invest in startups. Thank you so much.